Look at all these people staring at you, looking at you like they're waiting for you to say something that's going to change their lives. You probably shouldn't have had that third margarita. What if they don't like it? There's been some heavy hitter speakers up here. I don't know if I could follow all them. I know what they're thinking. Motivational speaker. I thought she'd be skinnier. Yeah, so did I. According to my New Year's resolution, at this point, I was supposed to have lost 30 pounds and have buff arms. Instead, I'm pretty sure my muffin top just had twins. At least I got my eyebrows on straight. I don't even know if they can relate to that, having to draw on my eyebrows yesterday. I drew them on. I was so sleepy. I drew one a good inch higher than the other. I had to walk around all day looking suspicious. It's a lot scarier up here. What if I'm not good enough? Once again, I'm the weird one in the room, the tacky one, the one who doesn't belong, one who's going to say the wrong thing, no filter. What if they don't like it? What if it's not good enough? What if they say she was a waste of our time? What if they're like, she should have had handouts. I should have brought handouts. I don't even have a PowerPoint slide. I don't do things like everybody else. Is that another hair growing out of my chin? Woke up this morning, started sprouting dreadlocks. Now, come on. Is that how you're going to play this? You're going to stand up here and write a story that says you failed before you've even started? Kelly, don't do that. Come on, give yourself a little more credit. Give them a little more credit. Come on, this isn't about you anyway. Don't make it about you. It's about them. You're here for them. And if you can make one person feel a little stronger than when they came in, walk a little taller, feel a little braver. If you can make somebody laugh, just once even, when maybe they haven't laughed in a while. If one person says, I laughed so hard I peed. Don't doubt the spirit that dwells inside of you. This is your moment. You've worked hard for this. You have spent your whole life working to this moment. There's nobody in this room who's worked harder to study the power of story than you have. Don't write a story of failure, because you know that the story you write becomes the life that you live. And if you want to change this, Kelly, you got to change your story right now. So you put your big girl panties on and you smile like you belong here. And even though you may not feel brave today, you're going to choose brave. So have fun. Leave all your talents and gifts right here on this stage. Dance like everybody's watching. Because this is going to be great. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I want to ask you, what is that voice telling you when you look in the mirror? And why does it matter? Because we write stories all day long. We run our lives by an inner narrative, and that story is working for you or it is working against you. And many of us are unaware of the story that we're writing. And do you know the power you have to change that story, and not just change the story that you tell yourself, but you can help change the story that your team tells as well, the collective story, because if you're not writing the story, they are. I'm just saying. I was thinking about the theme, uplift. Uplifting ourselves and uplifting others. And so I sort of did a trip backwards through memory lane, thinking about the people that uplifted me. And I noticed that it wasn't grand gestures. It wasn't the big things that I would write down in the scrapbook of my life. It was tiny moments. Tiny little accidental moments that made all the difference. Today, in my short time with you, I just want to love on you, uplift you, make you laugh, make you feel better, help you see the power of story. In the breakout session, we'll go deeper into the strategy behind it. Today, I just want to talk about some moments in my own life. I want to go to another moment where I'm standing there and I'm at an event, and it's a volunteer banquet type of event, something like that. Well, it was staff too, and they were giving everybody awards for how long they had been working there. And they had booked me to come in and speak. I think they had given me an hour or whatever. And as I'm sitting there in the audience, I'm watching my time get whittled away. From an hour to 55 to 50 to 45 to 30. Suddenly, I've got 15 minutes to get up on this stage and motivate their people who were going through a really tough time. And I'm thinking to myself, what do? I've got good information. I've got good data. All this is going out the window. 15 minutes, what do I do? And I heard a little voice that said, just do what brung ya. Just tell a story. It will do all the work you need it to do. So I got up there and I told them about a day when I was going to work. One morning, it was early, 0 o'clock. I'm getting out of the car in the parking lot for this event. I'm there to talk about, like customer service. I'm juggling with my briefcase and my coffee. I'm sorry, motivational speakers were not always motivated. I was feeling sort of like another day, another dollar, if you know what I mean. And I get out of the parking lot, and y'all, I don't take 3 steps into this parking lot before I hear singing. Some sweet morning, when this day is over, I fly away. Her loud, staccato, jubilant notes of a life well lived. The automatic glass doors opened up, and I could see this woman, and she is standing there holding her mop as if it were a beloved dance partner, as if her faded cotton dress were made of the finest silk. I sat in the corner of the lobby. I was early. I was hanging out, trying to get my notes together, figuring out what I was going to say. But I couldn't stop staring at this woman. And it didn't matter because she was oblivious to everyone around her, as if it were the most natural thing in the world to be dancing and singing and twirling her way across the marbled floors of her hospital lobby. While the beeps of the monitors and the dings of the elevators sang to her in sweet harmony. And suddenly I could smell the perfume of my changed perspective as I watched this woman turn her job into an art. She didn't know that I was in the restroom later that morning to watch her, to see her stop what she was doing, and she went over to a stranger and she laid hands on them and prayed for their wounded child. You don't see that a lot, not at work, even in the South. Later, I saw her help the elderly gentleman wrap the shawl tighter around his wife's shoulders. And I saw her give away her lunch. And I watched all throughout the day in those cold, unexpected, antiseptic corners of that hospital, and I saw pain find healing. I watched sorrow meet comfort. And I saw hopelessness find hope. Right there. All wrapped up in her faded cotton dress and comfortable shoes. Some sweet morning, when this day is over, I fly away. She was still singing all the way to the parking lot when she went to meet her bus at dusk. And by now I'm standing at that big glass bay window, watching her go, wishing she wouldn't, and wondering, would I ever see her again? And I haven't. And I'm standing beside their sign. Oh, it was fancy, slick, floor to ceiling, no doubt created by a group of marketing intellectuals. And the sign said quite simply, excellence starts here. And I smiled and wondered if their CEO knew just how true that really was. You see, that day, on an ordinary, unsuspecting day, a woman with a mop showed me what it looks like to serve. She taught me more about customer service than I would teach anybody that day. She taught me that you can't care about your customers unless you care about your customers. A woman who smelled of bleach and blessings reminded me that happiness, peace, contentment, a love for what you do and why you do it is not something that somebody comes to give you or say to you or deliver to you. That woman, she wasn't singing because she had the best job in the place. No. She was singing because that's the story she writes every day in her head. That woman taught me how every single one of us has this amazing privilege, opportunity, divine appointment to make a profound impact on the people who cross our path, whether you are holding the stethoscope or you are holding the mop. Because you may be the only smile they see. And because we don't do business with brick and mortar and services and systems, we do business with people. She was doing more, or at least as much, for that brand as anybody in that building. So yeah, I got all that from a woman with the mop. Funny thing is, she had no idea. But if a woman with a mop can sing like that, tell you what, so can I. And so thank you, all of you out there, the people behind the curtain or in front of it, who write that story every day, who change the lives with a simple smile or an outstretched hand, or more than that, using your gifts and talents. Thank you for all those moments you made a difference and had no idea. I finished my story at this event. People clapped, we hugged, they left. One man held back. He waited for all the others to leave. He was tall, he was stooped over, his eyes were rimmed with red. He said, "Ma'am, do you have a minute?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "I just want you to know that I'm that woman with a mop." And I knew exactly what he meant. He said, "I've been working in maintenance for this hospital going on probably 40 years. He said, "I don't believe anybody's ever made me feel important for what I do until tonight. Thank you," he said. And he shuffled off. And I sat in my car in the parking lot that night having a moment. First thing I said to myself is, "Kelly, this is not about you. You are just part of something bigger. You're getting a front row seat." And the second thing I said to myself is, why was I able to do, me, a stranger, why was I able in 15 minutes to do for that man what others had been unable to do for 40 years? That's not the power of Kelly Swanson. That's the power of story. Strategic, intentional storytelling is one of the most powerful tools you have to engage your people and your customers and your patients into the brand. And many of us don't even realize it. In the breakout session, we'll talk more about that. A little bit about me. In case y'all can't tell from my accent, I'm from Jersey, the South Side. No, I'm from Georgia originally, born and raised up there. Yeah, for the most part, still got people down there in Smyrna, Atlanta, Marietta, Cell Block D. Then I shamed them all and I moved up north to High Point, North Carolina. I come from a place where we're known for our grits, our hospitality, and our spray-painted marriage proposals. Where you can go 3 cornrows past the water tower and see where Billy Ray Bob climbed late one hour and he sprayed in red, "Will you marry me, Heather?" And spelled it wrong. I've spent most of my life as a motivational speaker and a comedian, my adult life anyway. And a motivational speaker, comedian, it just means I tell you can do anything. Then I tell you I'm just kidding. I remember being a little girl. This wasn't the plan to get up in front of people. Believe it or not, I'm introverted and quite shy. Some of you are like, I met you in the hallway. You're not. No, but I am. I remember being a little girl, though. And I remember I would run around my backyard in my bare feet singing. Anybody would y'all do that? I'd be singing to all these songs to my favorite musicals, Sound of Music, Oklahoma. I'm just a girl who can't say no. That was my theme song in college. If we met, don't tell me. I've changed my ways. I would sing around that backyard and I'd go over to the swing set. And then I would get on the swing and I'd keep on singing and I'd pump my legs higher and higher, because the higher up, if you got to a certain point on that swing set, the higher you pumped your legs, what would happen? Swing set would pop up out of the ground. That was a beautiful thing. We didn't cement our swing sets in the ground, not in our family. We're like, man up, Nancy. And then I would climb to the top on that long bar, the long dented metal bar of the swing set, and I would do flips across it. Did y'all do that like you were in the circus? And then I'd go to the edge where the rubber cap had fallen off. And I would put my lips up to that hollow tube, and I would sing in that tube, because remember, it sounded just like a microphone. I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I loved that microphone, and so did the bees. They made a nest in there. That's where I got my first all-natural Botox injection. I feel pretty, oh so pretty. In that backyard, I was free, fully showing up as who I was meant to be, dancing in my bare feet and loving who I was. I could be anything in that backyard. In the house, not so much. Couldn't be anything there. And when I got to school, they were so mean. I was the kid you threw things at on the bus. And I'm not saying that to get your sympathy. No, I'm so over it. But that was me. I was that kid. I was geeky. It was the 80s. I had the Coke bottle lenses and the wannabe Farrah Fawcett wings. And they were so mean. They're like, who cut your hair, they'd say. Where'd you get your clothes? A Goodwill? I probably didn't have Goodwill then, but you know what I mean. Who beat you with the ugly stick? They were so mean. Here, I could not be anything. I remember I thought I wanted to be a princess, like in the fairy tales. You know, have your happy ever after, look like a princess, get a prince, get a castle, right? I didn't look like a princess. I didn't look like anything in that fairy tale. So I just sort of escaped inside myself. Maybe some of you totally understand what I'm talking about, and I won't go too deep into that. We can talk more about it in a breakout session if you want. But I went into myself to a place beyond the voices. Do you have a place beyond the voices where they can't reach you? Maybe for you it's meditation. Maybe for you it's prayer. For me, I zipped myself up in this plastic bubble and I found a whole town full of people and stories. And they delighted me, and they made me laugh. And it was one after another. And so, yeah, I was the weird kid who saw things that other people didn't see. And you can call me weird, but my story in my head was just as real as any story you've chosen to live inside of. You said it this morning, Brian. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and whatever other word you said. So I was a kid with a whole town of people in my head called Pride's Hollow. Small town with a big heart where the people stay, but the gossip travels. And they became my secret, which later became my art, which at first was the thing I wanted to hide most from the world and eventually became the thing I wanted to share most with the world. How weird is that? And so I remember being a little girl and running errands with my mother. We didn't have play dates back then. No, your play date was if there was another kid beside you in the laundromat. You were on a play date. I don't know how old I was. But I remember looking around and noticing that all the other cars in the parking lot were shiny and ours was dull. And that all the other little girls had these pretty, frilly dresses, and not me. I had a dress my mother made out of recycled fabric, trimmed in rickrack, with a big snail on it with a button for an eye. And something clicked. And that night at the dinner table, I crossed my arms and I announced to my father with great indignation that we were poor. And I gave him this look like, explain yourself. And he did. He said, you're right, Kelly. You're poor. He said, you have nothing. What you have, we gave you, and we can take that back. He said, you can't afford to buy anything because you don't have a job. If we charged you for everything we had, you'd be beyond poor, you'd be in debt. So he said, you're exactly right, Kelly. You are poor. Then he said the words I will never forget. He said, Kelly, if you always look around to see who has more, you are always going to come up short. You'll always be poor. If you always look around and find somebody who has less, you'll always come out ahead. You'll always be rich. He said, but the luckiest of those are the ones who know how to turn nothing into something. So yeah, it was my daddy who first taught me that I could choose how I frame the world I live in. And I don't know about y'all, but some of us need to hear that right now. No matter what happens outside our control, we always have the power to change this story. I'm just saying. So yeah, I have one husband that I know of. We're at the part of the fairy tale they didn't tell you about that next chapter, where the honeymoon is ended, real life is set in, and suddenly you're getting a good idea what forever's going to feel like. Where the charming prince has grown a spare tire. A princess has developed anger issues. And your dreams of rocking on the front porch into the twilight of your life turns into unpaid bills, dirty laundry, and dreams of killing him in his sleep. Where the all-night hanky-panky turns into, come on, babe, we got 5 minutes before Law and Order starts. Where you go from saying, hey, baby, come rub some lotion on my shoulders, to come here, babe, look. You have got to see what is growing in between my toes. I think it's infected. Where you go from thinking how cute it is when he drools in his sleep to, dear Lord, please forgive me. But if that man's nose whistles when he eats a sandwich, one more time, I'm going to claw my eyes out. Now, I will tell you, especially because today is his birthday, I will tell you he's a good man. I married up. He got the short end of the stick. I turned to him the other night and I said, sweetie pie, would you please stop making that breathing noise. He's like, now you got a problem with the way I breathe? So, well, I'm just saying. I said, I can't help it that nothing I do ever bothers you. He said, is that what you think? I told him we'd be like these happy couples, you know the ones, holding hands, opening doors for each other, talking in the restaurant at dinner. I said, sweetie, I know what they have that we don't have. He said, what? I said, they have a song. That's romantic. They have our song. I bet some of y'all in here have your song. He says, all right, honey, what song do you want? I said, I'll take Wind Beneath My Wings. I said, sweetie, what song do you want? He did not hesitate. He said, I'll take Pink Floyd's I Have Become Comfortably Numb. I'm glad you think that's funny. So we don't have a song. We do have a date night, though. I think that's important. That's a good idea. We have a date night. We've always stuck to it. I take Mondays and he takes Thursdays. It's working out real well. My friend told me she had her husband's handprint put up in cement in the wall in a plaque. I said, why? She said, so if something ever happens to him, I can always walk by, put my hand up there, and I'll always remember what it felt like to have his hand in mine. I said, shoot, I got that. I said, you can come over to my house and you can feel his butt print in the recliner. I didn't pay a dime. But it's my butt print. I'm just saying. I got to get this. Hold on. Hey, Earl. Yeah, I can't talk. Yeah, I'm giving a speech. Not a peach, a speech. Put your hearing aid in. Yeah, I can't talk. It's important. There's a lot of people here, Earl. It's a health care group. That's right. No, they will not send an ambulance to your house. Come on, Earl. No, they do not do colonoscopies in your driveway. At least I don't think they do. Now, these are important people. We can't be wasting their time. No, I will not ask Brian if you can be their speaker next year. Earl, you're like 100. No, you're not a thought leader. Oh, no, these people are way more important. Right. I got to go. I got to go. Yes, you need to get your flu vaccine. No, Earl, that is not how they get you. All right. You'll be fine. I'll see you when I get home. Bye-bye. Yes, I'll tell them about Granny G. It's too late to go in the Gazette. I've already got them printed up. Yeah, I'll give them a couple of copies. Yes, I will. All right. Bye. Love you. Sorry about that. That's Earl. In addition to being the speaker, I'm editor of the Gazette in Pride's Hollow. All the latest news that's fit to print in my small town with a big heart where the people stay but the gossip travels. I got a couple of them if somebody wants a copy, and I'll sign it for you. And if you join my newsletter, I'll tell you that later. We'll talk about that in a breakout session. You get a color digital Gazette. How cool is that? Because newsletters don't have to be boring. I'm just saying. Earl wanted me to tell y'all that Granny Jean is okay. Did y'all hear what happened? I'll just tell you real quick. I'll get to my speech in a minute, Brian. He wanted me to tell y'all this. I just got to tell you that Granny Jean, did y'all hear what happened at the Piggly Wiggly? I took her to pick up her medication, and we had left the pharmacist, and we were over going to the snack cake aisle to get those little snack cakes with sprinkles that she likes so much. And she starts having a pure tea fit right there in the aisle. I didn't know what was wrong. I thought maybe the music was too loud. I mean, she's going berserk. And then I thought maybe she was choking. I was like, oh, my Lord, I don't remember the Heimlich maneuver. And I think they changed it. There was an article in Oprah's magazine, and I never read the article on what the new maneuver is, and I was freaking out, but she wasn't choking. And she's pointing to her pill bottle. Y'all ain't going to believe this. I just got to tell you because it's healthcare related. So she's pointing at her pill bottle and at the instructions. And y'all, I saw it plain as day because it was in that big font that they make just for Granny Jean. And it said, take 1 pill daily. WHORE. That's right. The pharmacist had called my Granny Jean a prostitute. Now I am upset. We march over to that pharmacist so we could have some words. Finally, the pharmacy, he calms us down and he's like, Miss Jean, it's fine. It's a mistake. It was just a typo, Miss Jean. It was supposed to say take 1 pill daily whole. Duvel just didn't have her glasses. She couldn't see good and she got the L and the R mixed up. Don't take offense. It's just a mistake. Or was it? See, what you don't know is that Duvel never forgave Granny Jean for taking her boyfriend in the 10th grade. I'm just saying. But if you see her, don't say anything about it. Just remember, you didn't hear it from me. Earl also wanted me to tell y'all about the letter we all got in Pride's Hollow. From Old Man Withers. You probably didn't know Old Man Withers. Nobody, he kept to himself. He was old. It wasn't like we all had a moment where we knew where he was, when he passed. He kept to himself. It wasn't until the letters started to arrive that his death generated more conversation than his life ever did. We didn't know he had that much money. We knew he had a lot, but not enough to leave everybody in our town some. He left everybody some money on one condition. Great, on one condition. He roped us into his last dying wish. All our letters said the same thing. We compared. All the letters said was, do something brave, as if your life depends on it. What are you supposed to do with that? But there are hundreds of stories of what people are doing with that challenge. Little did I know I would get a chance to find out myself. But first I want to tell you what Harriet did. Harriet Bumgardner lives in the little white house with the green shutters about 2 blocks over from me, mailbox with little daisies on it. She's lived there ever since her husband passed. She's a widow now. And Harriet and Harold Bumgardner, though you didn't know them, you probably know a couple like them. They were the type of people who never raised a fuss about anything. They didn't get overly excited about politics or religion. Or as parents, they never colored outside the lines. They lived in various shades of beige. They were the type always invited to the parties, but you could never remember actually seeing them there. When Harold passed, it was a Wednesday, and he was watching Wheel of Fortune. I remember had his crossword puzzle and his glasses right beside him. It looked like he was just dreaming of buying a vowel. Harriet hugged him, breathed in the scent of Old Spice that had clung to him their whole marriage. And so she set about making the necessary phone calls. She didn't get all upset, no judgment. It just wasn't her way. She knitted her way through the various stages of grief and wondered what she was supposed to do now. So when she was standing out front in her front yard, when the mailman came by with her letter, she normally wouldn't have given such challenges like that any time of day. Noreen happened to be from next door. Noreen was giving her a lecture on how you needed to cut your grass in angles instead of straight lines. Noreen, that was her love language, was lectures. Maybe y'all know people like that. The more she loved you, the longer she lectured. Noreen, bless her, she was about this tall. If she had a body type, it'd be rope. She had never married. Her only companion was that oxygen machine she took everywhere with her, whose hisses always punctuated her lectures. So Noreen's going on and on about the grass, and Harriet's half paying attention. Mailman comes up and brings her that letter, and suddenly Harriet sees these words: "What would you do if you were brave?" Normally she wouldn't have paid attention, but before her head could talk her out of it, her heart spoke up, and she knew exactly what she would do. She looked at that car sitting out in the driveway. The car was waiting for the kids to come pick up to go and sell. And before her head could talk her out of it, she turned to Noreen and she said, "Noreen, I want you to teach me how to drive that car today. We'll go spread Harold's ashes. It'll be a good use of gas in case he's listening." Noreen lit up like she'd won the lottery. Her zeal for helping others far outweighed the amount of people who actually came to her for help. She ran inside. She came back minutes later with a flashlight, with the clipboard, with a whistle, with a machete, with a bug-out kit, with a burner cell phone and her nephew's phone number plugged into it, and they were going to tape it inside the trunk in case they got abducted like they saw on the Law and the Order. It didn't bother them any that Harriet didn't have a license. Noreen's nephew was a state trooper. He could get them out of it if they got in trouble. And there was nobody in town anyway. The traffic was light. So they got in the car. They buckled Harold in the back seat, and this pretty little urn said a little prayer, and they set off. Noreen's teaching style was sink or swim. Here's the brake. Here's the gas. Don't forget the blinker. Let's go. So they started to drive. And every time Harriet made a mistake, Noreen would blow that whistle in her ear. And Harriet would start to cry a little bit. But after a while, she got the hang of it. A couple circles around the church parking lot, and she realized while working, that newfangled dishwasher the kids gave them was harder than this car. After a few laps, Harriet was feeling quite confident. Noreen says, "All right, you're ready." Harriet said, "Well, ready for what?" Noreen says, "Well, you're not a driver till you can drive on the highway. We're going to go hit the highway." All these voices started going through Harriet's head. "Oh, Mom, you can't drive. Mom, we told you you didn't need to go anywhere. Mom, that's silly." All these voices saying, what if? What if something goes wrong? And then that one tiny voice that says, "But what if something goes right?" And before her head could talk her out of it, her heart said, "Okay." And they hit the highway. And they started to drive, and Harriet was nervous at first, and her knuckles were clenched. But she started to get the hang of it. That's the thing about small acts of courage. Do a small one, it'll work you up to the next one. Next thing you know, she's turning on the radio on her favorite praise and worship channel, 4 notches higher than Harold ever let her turn it. She rolls down the window. Breeze starts blowing in and loosening the hair that had been wrapped in that tight bun for as long as we'd known her. She starts going a little bit faster, and all of a sudden, Harriet is free. Well, till the hair blew in her eyes, and then she skidded off the side of the road a little bit, and then Noreen blew her whistle, but they turned out to be fine. Finally, Noreen says, "All right, we've got a good place. We'll pull over right up here. There's a pretty park. We will go sprinkle Harold over here. It'll be a nice place." So they pull over, they get out of the car, both of them walk around to the back and shriek in horror in unison. Can you guess what happened? In all the activity, Harold had fallen over in the back seat. Top had come off, and he had been sprinkled all over the back seat of that car like a flour sifter gone bad. The last of Harold's earthly essence had been prematurely scattered. "Well," said Noreen, "not much we can do. There's not enough of them here to sprinkle. We just gonna have to vacuum him up. There's a Soapy Suds car wash right up Route 29, up the road a piece. We'll go do it there. No use crying over spilled ashes. And they got tickled. And they started to laugh. And then they laughed harder. And then they laughed harder. And then they peed a little. And don't you be judging. Harold had a great sense of humor. He would have been laughing right along with them. So that's why if you were driving through Pride's Hollow and you passed that car wash on that particular day, you would not have understood why two little old ladies are standing there singing, crying, praying, and dropping quarters into the vacuum dispenser. Later that night, Harriet was sitting there knitting Noreen a thank you sweater, watching Wheel of Fortune. She said, Harold, I think I'll keep that car just a little bit longer, just in case. And she was pretty sure he nodded. If you ever come through our town and you need to get your car washed, and I highly recommend that you do, you go by that Soapy Suds. It's the only one up Highway 29, and you pull in and you see if when you get through the other side, if you don't find what most folks will tell you, that when you pull out of that car wash, your car will smell just like Old Spice. Harriet taught me that sometimes it's those tiny acts of courage that matter the most. What's your Buick? What's that thing you would do if you were brave? And what's keeping you from doing it? And can you change that story? And can you help others change that story? Yes, you can. With intention, with a strategy, with a formula. Storytelling can be used to motivate and inspire and persuade people in a way that your data, your information, and your services will never be able to do. At this point in our conversation, as one-sided as it is, won't be so one-sided in the breakout session at 2:30 today. How's that for a plug? But at some point in this conversation, you have developed an opinion about me. You don't have to tell me now. We'll talk about the strategy and the methods behind what I've done today later. But you have come to some conclusion about me other than she's got good hair and I love her pants that she homemade herself. But if I were to ask you, what do you think about me? What do you think I value? What do you think I believe in? What do you think I care about? You would have an answer, good or bad. And why would I care about that? Because up here, I'm in the business of persuasion, not just making you feel good, but trying to get your buy-in. I'm a salesperson up here. Every single one of us is in the business of persuasion. I could have told you all these things you should do, but I knew that that would be empty. I wanted to show you instead. Because when I tell a story and I name an emotion, it unlocks a piece of your brain where your emotions are stored, and you automatically go back through that database of your life. You've done it in this room, and you found a moment when you felt the same way, and you stood in your story at the same time as I stood in mine, and in that moment, I had tremendous power to influence what you think, how you feel. Why would it matter what you think about me? Because the cardinal rule of sales, and all of us, we are all in the business of persuasion and storytellers of our brand, just like the woman with the mop. And the cardinal rule of sales is that people buy from people they like. I have had several people in healthcare who made big mistakes on my behalf. And I didn't say anything, and I didn't write a letter, and I didn't sue. Why? Because I liked them. because I trusted them, because I believe them and I felt like I know them. Like, trust, believe, know. We'll talk more about it later, but I'm going to tell you right now, you becoming likable in whatever moment you have, to your staff, to your customers, to your patients, to your team, to whoever that is you're trying to persuade, you becoming likable is critical. Because now more than ever, we have a huge trust problem in our society. No, you were right, Brian, or whoever said it. Quiet quitting is nothing new. Gallup polls told us years ago over 70% of people were disengaged, and in the next 10 years, if that went unchecked, it would go to over 80%. Why are they disengaged? Because when people lose passion for the value for what they do and what it means to themselves, to their brand, and to the people they serve, they check out. Stories help them check back in. Everybody should have a why story. That's what we do at my Story Impact Academy, is we create the stories. Who am I? What do I do? Why does it matter to me, to the brand, and to the people we serve? And there is a strategy and there is a formula. Don't walk out of here and go, oh, we need to tell better stories. No, if that's all you're going to do, you've already failed. Stories show us who you are without you having to tell us. By simply telling my stories, and they're not fancy, and they weren't even that slick or that great, truth be told. They weren't sexy stories, but I have opened up my heart, and you've gotten a chance to meet me and to decide whether you like me, trust me, believe me, or want to follow me on my journey. You lowered your arms, and it was very strategic what I did, and you can do it too, and you probably already are without realizing it. We can get people engaged again if we can change their story. We connect through story. So like I said, the letter said, what would you do if you were brave? I didn't realize I was going to get a chance to find that out in a way I didn't expect. I had to go to this networking event. I didn't have to, I wanted to. I wasn't there to speak. I was there to get an opportunity to get people to notice me because I had this wild and crazy idea that maybe what I do might fit in a theater. As if I hadn't made my life hard enough on myself already, I decided at my age, maybe I could have a theater show. And I was going to this networking event in a ballroom just like this, but with twice as many people and the fanciest, shiniest people you've ever seen. It was going to be an important event, and so I knew I needed an important outfit. It could not be anything as unconventional as what I'm wearing right now. So me and my best friend, her name's Chardonnay. She's a good friend. I see you know her too. She was friends with my mama first. She's the one who always tells me I look good when I dance. She's the reason I had kids. She's not a good wingman, though. If you're single, don't hang out with Chardonnay. You think she makes you pick it? No, she's got bad taste in men, especially the later it gets. She can get downright sloppy. So me and Chardonnay always encourages me to shop. Me and Chardonnay get on the internet to pick out an outfit. And I knew as soon as I saw them, because I could hear the choir of angels sing, ah, I was like, that's it. Those are the pants I'm going to wear to this networking event that's going to change my life. They were a pair of bright silver sequined palazzo pants. That's the pants that kind of blossom out at the bottom like bell bottoms, covered in sequins, y'all, all over. Big old shiny silver sequins. And I know what you're thinking. That's a lot of sequins. It's kind of like bedazzling a walrus. At least that's what I thought. All I got to say is, you're going to be judging me if you're going to make them in my size, you're not going to be judging me for wearing them. I'm just saying. And don't be coming up after saying, don't shame yourself, your body shaming yourself. No, I'm not. I know I look good. I may be a work in progress, and I may not be where I want to be, but I will love myself every step of the way. I'm just saying. They can't see your beauty if you can't see it. So these pants come in. I didn't know they were going to take so long. They took like weeks and weeks to come in. I think they were coming from China. And hey, Side note, plus size in China, it is not the same as it is here. You're welcome. But they came in, I was like, I don't have any time, I got to wear them. I tried them on. I was like, okay, I had a long black top in case you're still trying to figure out how that looked. I tried it all on. They fit good enough. They were kind of tight, but that's okay because they were low rise. Only came halfway up my butt. And I put them in my suitcase and I took off to go head to this networking event. I get there, I can't get in my room. I got to go to this event. They're already gathering. They're in all these little round tables like you are, already getting their drinks and coming in to gather. And I'm like, okay, I got to go change. I found a bathroom, kind of remote, nobody in it. I got in there, I got all ready. I put on my pants. I looked in the mirror. I kind of did my theme song, you're gonna hear me roar. Pumping myself up, changing that inner scripts, what you got to do. So I take a step to leave that bathroom, and I hear this noise. I didn't know what that noise was. I thought maybe it was the pipes. I didn't hear it again. I took another step. I see you're already starting to figure it out. I think maybe I was in denial. But finally, it dawned on me where that noise was coming from. It was coming from my thighs. Every step I was taking, the sequence, what are they made of? Metal, ceramic, plastic? I don't know. But I'll tell you this, every step I took, when my thighs would touch, they would start gnashing and grinding together, engaged in mortal combat. My thighs sounded like I was at kindergarten violin concert. You see, there were two words I'd failed to take into consideration when purchasing those pants. Chub rub. Oh, it's a thing. Some of you are like, chub rub? I don't know what that is. Well, bless your heart. Bless your heart, healthcare Barbie. I will tell you what it is. It's when your thighs rub together when you walk. It's a thing. It hurts. It'll chafe. You can get a rash. They make a salve for it. If it's really bad, you got to join our club. I'm the president. It's called the Chub Rub Club. We got t-shirts made. I had all this free stuff. I didn't give it away. I guess I'll have to give it away in the breakout session. We got t-shirts made up too. It says Chub Rub Club, where thigh gap is for losers. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't come in small. Now, if you're younger, like the millennials, whatever they're calling you, we got a sorority too. We got t-shirts made up. Thigh gapagona. If it's really bad though, you got to join the Chub Rubbers Anonymous. My name is Kelly Swanson. It's been 30 days since my last rash. My rock bottom happened on Sunday morning in church. I wore corduroys. A friction caused sparks. They had to put me out in a baptismal pool. Give her a token, Frank. My husband says, honey, I don't think chub rubbers means the same thing to men as it does to women. I don't know what he means by that. And I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that except you're in healthcare. So I'm standing here in these sequin pants. I got no other option. I got nothing to change into except my yoga pants. I got 47 pairs of yoga pants I wear everywhere except yoga. I'm like, what am I going to do? I said, Kelly, it'll be all right. Just get to the back of the room. That's all you have to do. Stand in the back, wave to people. You paid a lot of money to be here. You got to be here at this event. So I get to the back of the room and I see this chair about 4 or 5 feet away. I'm like, it's going to be fine. You're going to get to that chair 4 or 5 feet, despite the fact that my heart is hammering and all these people are in khakis and floral shirts because I didn't get the memo that said theme was Hawaiian Tropic. Now I'm standing there looking like Elvis. And not the good Elvis, the later years Elvis. And I'm like, all right, you just got to get to that chair. That's all. Get to that chair and you'll be fine. It's only 4 or 5 feet, but it's hard to get there without your thighs touching and look natural. But I did it, y'all. I sat down. I'm breathing heavy. I'm sweating in places you ain't supposed to sweat. Hey, guys, close your ears. Did you know there's a name? Y'all probably might know it already. There's a name for the moisture that gathers up under the girls. It's called your Mountain Dew. I saw it on Wikipedia. Again, it's a healthcare group. So I finally make it to this chair. I'm sitting there. I'm exhausted. I'm breathing heavy, but I made it just in time to see the sign on the table. It said reserved. And little Miss Thang's tapping me on the shoulder saying, I got to walk all the way up a room through a split aisle like this with these pants that sound like I'm a rocking chair rolling over kitten tails to get to the front. And I sat there having a moment. And that voice is like, yep, see, you don't fit, you don't belong, you're weird. This isn't your place. Play it safe. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And then this other voice is like, don't doubt the spirit that dwells inside of you. If you run from here, you're going to run everywhere. Play big or go home. Stand up and own it. And walk that aisle because somebody's watching you. And they're seeing themselves in you. You're not taking that walk for just yourself. You're taking it so somebody else will have the courage to take theirs too. And so for the first time, that voice won, and that little girl in the backyard in her bare feet, I stood up. I took a deep breath, and with the courage I didn't feel, but a courage I chose, I said, okay, thighs. Do your thing. And I began to march. I marched with emphasis, with power. Slow motion march I did. I clapped my thighs together. I sounded like a backyard revival, if you know what I mean. I stopped at tables. I handed out cards. Sequins were jumping ship left and right. People be like, where's that noise coming from? I said, it's coming from my thighs. Apparently down there, the party's already started. And I marched my way right up to the front, marched my way right up to that dance floor later. The light hits my pants. I became a human strobe light. And with a courage I didn't feel, I danced like everybody was watching. I chose brave. As I left that night, there was an agent standing there in the doorway. He's got a snarl on his face, and I'm thinking, oh, here comes my wet blanket. But for some reason, I felt different now. Because suddenly I realized I had the pen on this story, not him. And what he thinks about me is irrelevant. What you think about me or how many people like what I do or how good I do in comparison to somebody else or am I good enough is irrelevant. You don't like it, that's your story. I hold the pen. I may not be able to control what life gives me, but I certainly write the story of what I'm going to do with what my life has given me. The agent puts his hand out to shake mine. And he hands me his card. And he said, I want you to call me on Monday. I want to talk about working together. He said, I think you're exactly what we're looking for. We just didn't know it. Y'all, you're exactly what the world is looking for. They just may not know it. So tell them. The agent waves goodbye and says, Chub Rub, that's hilarious. And he shuffled off and launched my first theater show. And I stood there having a moment, as I'm standing here today, having a moment, realizing the things that had made me weird and different and quirky as a little kid had actually become the things that have made me great, that have allowed me to connect and engage with people in my own way, in the moment I'm in. Your moment's coming. What will you do with it?